Welcome, everybody. It's the top of the hour. Good day to you. It's time to get started. It's IBT Online's Webinar Wednesday. The Go Global webinar series brings you today growing your sales, your brands, and business in Dubai and the Arab Gulf. Welcome. Thank you for joining us wherever you may be. And I can see that many from you are across in the US, so a very good morning to you. And good afternoon to those of you in Europe. And of course, to those of you in the Middle East, a very good evening. It's truly an online global webinar. I also want to say good day to you, to those of you who are tuning into these webinars when they're recorded, because we do record all of these, and there are many of you we know that listen to this on demand. So wherever you are and whatever time of day it is with you, you are welcome. My name is John Worthington. I am CEO here at IBT Online, and I'm your host here today. I have the huge pleasure of introducing our Go Global webinar series, and I'm very excited about the webinar subject today: grow your brands, your business and sales in Dubai and the Arab Gulf. We're very passionate about our Go Global webinar series. It's all about knowledge. It's all about understanding in this fast-moving and ever-changing online and international world. There's always so much to learn, and it's difficult to keep up to date. So the Go Global webinar series is all about that. It's all about understanding how to do business and grow your brands and sales in different markets. And today it's Dubai and the Arab Gulf. Now, before we get going, I always do a little bit of housekeeping so you know what to expect from the online global webinar series. For those of you who are attending again, welcome back. You know the drill. Briefly, this webinar is one in our series, and it's all about helping you grow your businesses, grow your sales and your brands globally. The Go Global webinar series is now over 3 years old, so there is a rich catalog of recorded webinars available to you on demand. You just go to www.ibt.onl and a / for resources, and you'll see lots of those webinars, and also future webinars. We have webinars planned ahead of us for the next number of months. This webinar will be approximately 45 minutes, a brief introduction by myself before I hand over to Susanna, my colleague and curator of today's webinar. There will be 3 polls, so please get ready with your mice, and we will be asking you to participate. Your opinions and thoughts are valuable to us. There will be time for questions. So on your screen in the bottom right-hand side there, you can see chat box and questions. Please don't hesitate. Provide us with all of the questions that you have and let us know what you're thinking. And today we're excited to introduce, there will of course be the survey at the end, a grow your sales, brands and business in Dubai and the Arab Gulf survey at the end. So participate. And please finally do know that we will be providing you with a copy of the recording and the slide deck that will come into your email box on Friday after it has been prepared by some of our colleagues. So now kick back, get comfortable, have a morning coffee, an afternoon tea or an evening drink as we dive into today's program. It's all about webinaring and doing business in Dubai and the Arab Gulf. Now, I'm happy and proud to be joined today by my co-presenters. On the right of your screen, Anne Jaffrey. I've had the pleasure of knowing and working with Anne for many years. Anne has lived for over 28 years in the Middle East, owning and operating multiple companies in a variety of interests. Anne knows Dubai and the Arab Gulf intimately. Anne has built her regional business expertise over many years, client by successful client, building her practice through hard work, always helping and caring for her clients' business development in the Middle East. Anne is the managing partner of Channels MEA. She leads a team of experts in support of Middle East market entry, and her expertise includes identification and vetting of potential agents and distributors, due diligence, that is, joint venture opportunities, and whether it's B2B or B2G or B2C, appointment setting, regional company formation, FDI, and trade and investment. Anne knows the Middle East, as you will hear later today. Next on your screen to the right, Susanna Hardy. Susanna Hardy is IBT Online's Chief Content Officer, and in that capacity has taken leadership in this successful online global webinar series. Susanna is responsible for all of our digital media and multi-channel publications. Susanna brings together and curates a huge wealth of international online research and knowledge that is then made available to you on our website and social media channels. So don't hesitate, go and take advantage. Have a look at IBT's white papers, ebooks, infograms, and videos, and of course, these webinars, and they're all dedicated to helping you grow your business. Susanna is a very international person and has lived and worked in the US, that is over in New York, as well as France, Germany, and the United Kingdom. Susanna speaks German, French, Dutch, and English, and truly is an international cosmopolitan person. I'd like to introduce now Jared Grossman. Jared is one of IBT Online's business development manager. There you go, second from the left of your screen. Jared has an international background, having traveled and studied widely in the world, and his master's in international business over in the United Kingdom. Today he is based in Richmond, Virginia. Jared works with international companies that are looking to increase their global online presence by understanding their challenges and their routes to market and international business objectives. Jared is an expert in the international online world, very much a digital native. And today, Jared will be working with me to help manage today's webinar. He'll be manning the chat box and answering questions and providing all of the follow-up to ensure that we give you the information you need. Now, a quick word on IBT Online. There you go, IBT Online Global. We're a privately held company, both US and European. IBT stands for International Business and Technology, and that technology is all about the online world. We've been in business since 2002, so that's over 16 years of working with companies and our corporate clients, helping them online and globally. We're proud of our international trade order winning online global program, which today serves over 400 companies. We have over 1,000 online global programs, which provide measurable sales and brand business development. And today, of course, we're focused on Dubai and the Arab Gulf markets. So IBT Online, we understand the challenges faced by you, your companies going global and internationally. Right, over to the next page. And I'm going to be handing over to my colleague, Susanna, all about today's agenda. Susanna, are you there?
Thank you very much, John. It's a real pleasure to be here today and talk with all of you about Dubai, the Arab Gulf world, and so on. So we're going to get straight into the webinar now. Just really going to give you an overview landscape of the Dubai and the Arab Gulf states, then talk more about the online environment and some of the business opportunities that we're seeing in the online environment and how that's working, and then get round up with some best practices and case studies. Hopefully that'll have left some questions as well, some question time as well. So we'll be looking forward to answering any of your questions that you could put in the question box. So right now I'd like to hand over to Anne to talk about business in Dubai and the Arab Gulf states. Anne?
Thank you, Susanna, and thank you for including me today. First off, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself and my company so that you actually believe that I know what I'm talking about, although thank you, John, for the wonderful introduction. I started Channels about 10 years ago, quite organically, as the chairman of the Middle East Council of American Chambers of Commerce. I was being asked questions about market entry, opportunity gaps, and the nuances of doing business in the region with all the visiting U.S. trade delegations that were coming in. And my partners and I decided that instead of spending all my time giving free advice, I could commercialize what we were doing. So over the last 10 years, we've worked with companies all over the world, assisting them with evaluating and entering the growing wealthy markets in the Arab Gulf countries of UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, and Bahrain. So let's get into a little bit about doing business in the Middle East. On this slide, we've offered you some of the statistics that are available to anyone online. So often the challenge for those who are not in the region is drawing the correct conclusions from the data points that they do have available to them. So that's where it's very important that the advice that you are getting or the guidance that you are receiving is coming from a place of market knowledge from within the Gulf. The two largest markets are UAE and Saudi Arabia, but choosing which market to start in really is dependent on the industry you're in. In terms of the ease of market entry, UAE is hands down the easiest. By example, if you have anything to do with mining or manufacturing, you definitely will want to target Saudi. But there is a reason why Google, General Motors, Pfizer, and GE all have their regional headquarters here. UAE is a major re-export transshipment hub for the broader Middle East, South Asia, and North Africa. So the real reason why Dubai is the first choice for regional market entry is a lot of things that people don't really know if you haven't been here. So one of the things that comes as a surprise is that most of the people in UAE, 90% in fact of the UAE's population is foreign born. They're expat workers, and this has created a general openness to outsiders in the business and lifestyle cultures in UAE. The government is run recognizing that the ease of doing business is key to its continued success as a regional hub. And each of the Arab nations, in fact, have a significant percentage of expat workers of varying degrees. Newcomers are often amazed at how westernized cities are and how broad the availability is of products and creature comforts that they're familiar with. In fact, there's more Starbucks here than there are in my hometown in the US. So much focus is made on high quality education and healthcare by the government because they recognize that quality of day-to-day life is the advantage they have in terms of business attraction. Happy wife, happy life is true all over the world. And it's safe. In the 29 years I've lived here, I have never felt any threat to my physical safety. Common question, is now a good time? Well, 30 years ago when I came, it was a great time, but the opportunity remains real if you are prepared with the right guidance. Look at the top picture here on the slide. This is the main road that runs the length of the country called Sheikh Zayed Road, and this is a picture from 1989 when I first came. If you look at the two towers there and the defense roundabout, and then look at the bottom picture, it's what the defense roundabout looks like today. See the tiny two towers on the left front corner? That gives you a perspective of how much things have changed dramatically in the last 30 years here in Dubai. These countries, UAE, Oman, Bahrain, Saudi, are relatively young with sovereign wealth abundance, and they're eager not just to adopt, but to exceed international business standards, practices, and innovation. I just wanted to mention 10X. It's the Dubai government's initiative to adopt disruptive innovations across government sectors that are 10 years ahead of other world cities. So it's aggressive development that's going on here right now. They've got plans to go paperless. They've got plans to go cashless. So it's quite exciting time to be part of what's going on. A lot of people ask me, because of oil prices, has there been a struggle for them to actually make ends meet? Which I can understand that from an outsider's perspective, but you have to take in mind the depth of oil wealth that it accumulated over the previous so many years. And they were aware of the risk of being too dependent on factors beyond their control, like mainly fluctuating oil prices. So they started diversifying their economy long before the oil prices dropped. The overall goal of the country is to reduce GDP volatility through economic diversification. So all of these plans on this slide you can find online. If you read through them, you can find definite opportunity gaps for your own company. There remains strategic spending in key industries, but I'll tell you some of the column on the right-hand side is the big categories where there's a lot of money and time and focus being put right now by the UAE government. And just when I speak about Dubai and the UAE, it's important to note that UAE really is the benchmark that the surrounding countries follow. So what's tested here naturally flows there. So it really is the center of the whole region. So they're promoting public-private partnerships right now. They recognize that they can't do it alone. Collaboration is the name of the game. They're looking for experts and companies who are willing to put some skin in the game. If they're expected to grow at this kind of rate, they really need to get collaboration to achieve these huge goals that they've set for themselves. So you'll find if you're willing to get into these areas like manufacturing, light assembly, whether you bring in parts of whatever you're making and assemble them here, you'll find that you get different kinds of opportunities that are offered by the government, tech transfer to train their people, etc. So then I want to just tell you a little bit about how business is different here than what you might expect. So I've listed on the left-hand column the Western way that we are more comfortable and accustomed to doing business, and then on the right hand, the Arab Gulf way. The Arab Gulf really does have a business culture all its own. If you've done business in Germany, flip it right upside down on its head. Because of the work that I do, I have the privilege of traveling around the United States and other countries with my colleagues from foreign countries and giving these types of talk about doing business. So when I listen to what Germany says about how to do business there, I can definitely say we do it the exact opposite way. It's highly relational here. We want to do business with people we know and we trust, and that takes time to build into a relationship. The sales cycle and response time is much slower. There may be an urgency to provide pricing, and then there may be a long silence. A great thing to bear in mind if you're looking to do business here, that they are spoiled for choice because the entire world is looking at these growing economies that have money to spend. But it's doable with the right guidance. So, is price more important or are relationships more important? Companies do businesses across continents based on pricing and the quality of goods and services. Yes, that's true. And this is a very price-sensitive market. Be prepared to bargain and to give yourself a good margin when you start so that you do have the room to come down and still give your counterparts in the Middle East that feeling of success that they've managed to negotiate you down to a fair price. But it's also a major way we are different over here is that for real sustainable business, you have to invest in relationships. And that's why one of the most important choices that you'll make has to do with partnering and how you enter the market. So these are your choices. You can come into the country as a free zone, which gives you 100% ownership, and there are plenty here in UAE, and the same model has been adopted in other of the Arab Gulf states. You can do onshore licensing, which is an obligatory 51% ownership by a national partner or sponsor. So some businesses, because of the type of business they do, they have to be an onshore company. And we're also seeing that there is some legislation coming down the pipeline that may give an option for 100% onshore licensing soon. We just don't know how soon. But the most common way that people or companies enter the market is really by choosing a distributor or an agent, because it's a nice, gentle first step to test the waters, because they already have the pre-existing relationships that are so important to doing business here. They have market intelligence because they are present. And so that tends to be the first step for most companies to introduce their products and services here. So if you're going to choose a distributor or an agent or a partner, it becomes one of the most important decisions that you make. I just wanted to give you a little background on some of the things to expect when you get to this point. You will find all different types of distributors. There are great distributors who are willing to work with you and give you the information you need and really present a public face that's in line with what your brand represents in this region. But there are also some other distributors that you're going to want to avoid. One is the one who we call the collector. They just want your brand name on their website. That's all. They're not going to buy, they're not going to actively sell. It's just about brand building to make themselves look bigger, and then they will work with other brands and so forth. Some will have yours and your competitors' products and obviously won't actively sell for you. And that's what we call the counterfeit watch salesman. He opens his jacket, pick one, pick any one. So if you want someone who's actually going to be actively selling on your behalf, you're going to want to really do your due diligence. You're going to want to make sure that it's a cultural match between your companies. You want to ask them for a proof of claim in terms of if they give you a business plan, how many channel partners they have, who are they working with, what projects they've worked on, and you can ask in a very polite way for proof of their claims, because you have to be sure that they have some kind of proof of getting paid as well. You want to make sure that they're going to actually pay you. So due diligence and a credit check is a very important thing for before you enter this kind of relationship. So that's it for me, Susanna. If you have any questions, I'll be here at the end and happy to help.
And before we did that, I just wanted to quickly jump in and do a poll related directly to what you were saying. So I'm just going to launch this poll, which is going to appear on everybody's screen. So here we go. The poll should be coming through now. Everybody, please, what are your thoughts about the poll? The poll is all about, are you in this market? Is it via a market partner and online, or distributors, or yes, is it online only? I'd like to give you some of the feedback. The feedback is telling us that 46% are saying no, but an important 22% are saying thinking about it, and 30% are saying that they're in market via distributors and in market partners. So with that, I'm going to say that is the end of the first poll. I'm going to close this poll. I'm going to hand back to Susanna.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you, Anne. That was terrific. I wanted just to launch straight on into the online environment, and this slide here really is to give you just a reminder of the global world that we're seeing in the digital world. So out of a total population of 7.5 billion now on the earth, 4 billion are on the web. And what are we doing on the web? Well, we're talking on the web. We're obviously communicating. So out of that 4 billion that are on the internet, 3.3 are on social media, and are active social media. So if you just remember those numbers, then the other point that I wanted just to make on these very general slides is that this is not yet a phenomenon that's finished. This is still a strong growth phenomenon. Globally, social media users are growing by about 13% per year. Now let's look precisely and specifically at the Middle East and the Arab Gulf region. So if we include the entire region, that's just over 250 million people. Roughly 65% of them are on the internet. But what's really interesting to me as well is, just like Anne was saying, it's really led by UAE, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, those two sort of major countries in the region. They have some of the highest internet penetration by country in the world. And indeed, if you look at the other countries, I mean, Bahrain is right up there as well. The USA, by the way, is I think at around number 20 or so in terms of internet penetration rate at 80%. And UAE has 99% penetration rate for the internet. So it is a very online environment. Now, let's see, what are they actually doing online? Well, that's actually really interesting. One thing they're not really doing a lot of actually is buying stuff. It is not a huge e-commerce market. And perhaps this goes back to what Anne was saying, sort of, the need to look someone in the eye and shake someone's hand to do business. But what we can say is that it is strong growth, and definitely the big actors in the e-commerce world are really circling the region and starting to make some very, very large investments there, just lining things up, because it's really feeling that the environment is changing, that people are starting to buy more and more online. And it's estimated to be reaching sort of in the 50 billion US dollars within the next 4 or 5 years. So it's not yet a huge business, huge industry in e-commerce, but definitely getting that way and lining up. So what are they doing then if they're not buying online? Well, what they are really, really doing in the Arab Gulf states is they're talking. They are really communicating everywhere. Again, if you look at the image on the right-hand side of your screen, it says social media penetration rate, the highest in the world. Qatar, UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain is number 6, and so on. So these are countries that have immense social media penetration. Everybody in those countries is on WhatsApp and Facebook. They are really are very strong as well. And on the left-hand side, this is about growth in social media users. The single largest growth of social media is actually in Saudi Arabia. We said that social media around the world is growing at 13%. In Saudi Arabia, is growing nearly 40% per year. So I said that WhatsApp is the most common and most popular social media channel, and a lot of people there will use lots and lots and lots of different WhatsApp groups for different kinds of communications. But Instagram is also very large, and I'll drill down a little bit more about that when I talk about social media marketing. So overall, what we can say in the Gulf states is it's very plugged in. It is very oriented towards social media. And finally, it is still really, really growing fast. Reminder there of the global growth rates, 7 and 13%. Here we're looking at 11% overall and 39% for the social media. So it is still a very fast growing area for the online side, very fast evolving. Now, getting down to some, I want to talk about some of the business opportunities in that and getting down to some of the details. And just like Anne, I wanted to really highlight 2 countries in particular. The first, the United Arab Emirates with Dubai, is it just blows the statistics away for any internet on the internet of any country I know pretty well. 99% internet penetration, and everybody's on social media all the time. It's also the best e-commerce market in the region as well. It's the one that has the most development, most depth. What's really interesting to me is to see the Facebook profile, which is very significantly different from what you'll find in many other countries. First of all, it's dominated by men. The majority of Facebook users are men. The other point is that the single largest category of users are the business people. They're aged between 25 and 44. And that is by far the biggest user group for this. So yes, they're using it for just sort of online chatting and other things as well, but they're also using it for business. And one of the ways that you can see this is actually through Facebook advertising costs. They're very high in the UAE, which means that it's a very developed market. Saudi Arabia next is equally interesting. It's obviously the largest market in the region. 33 million people, 30 million of them are online. And again, in terms of sort of global ranking, again, Saudi Arabia just sort of, blows through quite a few of the statistics, certainly in terms of videos and YouTube watching. It's also a huge market for Twitter. It's the 4th largest Twitter market in the world. And as I said, it is rapidly becoming more mature in terms of e-commerce. I wanted also to point out something, which is that a lot of, it's always said, okay, everybody uses English. English is the business language. You don't have a problem there. Everyone speaks English. But when you drill down into it, online, people are not always speaking English. People are going to their comfort zone. So if there's a choice, they will go to an Arab language. And you can see that in terms of the top Google searches in 2017. So while some of them might be sort of, YouTube, Facebook, and Google, others are local URLs, local domains. And I think that's also really worth thinking about when you're looking at doing business here, and particularly if you're looking at having a web presence. Now, what does it take to have a good web presence in the region? I think one thing we have to talk about is localization. And what is website localization? And the easiest way that I can explain this, the fastest way I can explain this really, is to go back to some of the basics of how do search engines work. Search engines are localized. Now we saw that Google has about 90% market share in throughout the Middle East, and particularly in UAE and Saudi. So Google has Google UAE, Google Saudi, Google Jordan. It'll have a different Google in each one of these markets. In total, you have to think that Google has 192 different search engines. They're all, slightly different. They can have the same language like the US and the UK, but they're different search results. They'll have different languages in the same country, like German versus French, Switzerland. So Switzerland has 2 or 3 different types of search engines. And then you can even have different results if you have different devices. Italy, for example, if you have a mobile and a desktop, the results are very different. But for me, how I can also think about it is, if let's say you're a German company and you want to sell into the United States, would you want to have a German website selling into the United States? No, you'd want to have an American English website selling into the United States. So I've listed here that sort of 10 big criteria that we have about website localization. What makes a localized website? And you can see that language, fully adapted to local language, is 1 out of 10 aspects. Other aspects include things like hosting locally, regulatory environments, getting the right domain names, things like that, which are quite broad. But these are language is 1 item out of, let's say, the 10 that we've listed here for website localization. Now, with regards to what makes a really great sort of Arab-speaking focused localized website, one of the first things you're going to have to decide on is whether you want it to be in Arabic or in English adapted. Now, Arabic, as you might not know this, but it's the 5th most spoken language in the world, but it's also the 5th most spoken language on the internet. So it has a very strong presence there and is worth thinking. So it has a big reach for that. Now, the choice is, which kind of Arabic. There's lots of different types. There's sort of, variations of it. Now, you can get, for example, a modern standard Arabic, which is the thing that most people will know. It's sort of seen as sort of like the standard around in the region. But I've given you an example there of what a cell phone written, how you write the word for a cell phone in UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. So it's very different words each time for the cell phones. So, you're going to have to choose exactly which kind of Arabic, or are you going to have an English adapted for the region? Keywords differ from country to country. You need definitely to localize design and imagery. Arab script, remember, Arab script reads from right to left. So Arabic websites, therefore, are essentially flipped over or mirrored. So this changes not only where the text sits on a page, but everything else, like your logo and the search functions and everything. Everything needs to look and work as a local would expect it, though. And that's the important part there. So before I get on to next best practices, perhaps we have time for another poll.
We certainly do. Look, thank you very much indeed. Do you have localized websites? I'm going to launch this poll, so please, everybody, please, do you have localized websites? Is it Arab language localized or English that Susanna was describing? Or perhaps your distributors are helping you do that? Or are you thinking about it? I'd like to give you some of the feedback from all of you, and I thank you so much for contributing. I'd like to tell you that, yes, 10% are saying that they have English language adapted websites. There's a good 10% saying they're thinking about it, and 83% here are saying no, that they don't have it at all. Well, that is very interesting. Look, for those of you who've walked down the path, we would love your feedback about how successful that's been. So please don't hesitate to put questions in or tell us about it or put it in the chat box. For those of you who are thinking about it, what are your thoughts? Which markets are you thinking about? Let us know again. We would appreciate your information through the questions or chat box. I'm going to close this poll down. There you go. That's the end of the second poll. I'm handing it back to Susanna. Thank you, Susanna.
Thank you very much, John. That was very interesting. Right. Then talking about some best practices for localized websites and online marketing. I guess for us, I just wanted to put this slide in just sort of for us and our clients, when our clients are looking at localized websites and online marketing and social media marketing, really it comes down to that core essential aspect of the sales process, getting found, being understood, and doing business. So that's really for us the key of these localized websites. And what we've found is that they really complement the what Anne was saying, about the need for a local distributor and in-market partner, and giving that partner the type of tools that they need to expand and grow your brand and grow your business for you in their region. So really, it's about sort of establishing credibility and getting brand awareness in the region. That's really the key that we found most of our clients want to use their websites for in the region. It's generating leads, yes, and generating brand awareness throughout the region, and then allowing their distributors to really sort of push that more. I think one of the key areas that our clients have said, has been most helpful is just saying, yes, we are very committed to this region. We are very committed to Saudi Arabia and having a long-term commitment and a long-term business partnership there, and therefore we're going to have an online presence there as well, because that's it's such a plugged-in region as well. They will look up the company. You will be searched and looked at online. So I wanted to share with you two examples. The first is a company. It's an American company. It is a strong mid-cap family-owned company. They sell to a lot of different verticals, though. They sell to everything to retail packaging, to schools and art supplies. So they do have a need for a variety of different types of distributors and agents. They could have several in the same market. So one of the keys for them also was making sure that they have the right tools and that they're giving all of their distributors similar tools. That way they don't show any sort of favoritism, as it were. So a website we first did a website for them in UAE, works very, very well on that. It also allows them to have some look and some view on the end clients, because registration of the products has to go through the website. So therefore it's not just the distributor who's keeping the client as a sort of a barrier between you and the client. No, this distributor is working very much with the company, but the company is also getting some view of the end final client, which is so important, really, again, for that business cycle. The other company I wanted to point out, again, is a U.S. mid-cap company, and also been around for a very long time. This is actually part of they have a couple of sister companies as well. They are in construction and mining and material companies. They do a wide range of materials for this. And the interesting thing here was, they're very focused on the Saudi Arabian market, and felt that a website would be really important for them to show commitment and to increase their brand awareness. Exactly what I was saying earlier for the website localization article. One of the issues you have in Saudi Arabia, and in fact in many areas in the Gulf states, is buying the right domain name. One, they're very expensive, and two, you have to have a Saudi address, in fact, in order to buy it. So there's ways of getting around that, which we were happy to do. But for them, I think their domain name was certainly over $100, which in most countries it's only about 20. But out of this, they're able to do a lot of social media. And that's one of the key areas that they wanted to focus on. So they're going to be bouncing a whole lot of social media marketing off the website. They do a lot of trade shows, and this is perfect for them, just to know how to get their brand awareness and working with their distributors. So here we go. I just wanted to say, sort of, in conclusion, I guess, before we pass on to some questions. You know, for us, we really feel like the world is changing, and is more and more online. Even countries which have a tradition of a more face-to-face business culture is changing. Social media is very present, and it's interesting that the countries who have, as Anne was saying, you know, they have this a different way of doing business, are very focused on also the personal relationship, but they're also some of the most plugged in countries in the world and some of the most active social media users in the world. So I think a great combination as an in-market agent, in-market partner with a fantastic localized website and social media marketing.
What a combination. Look, thank you very much. It's time for poll number 3, our third and final poll. It's all about social media and an online presence, the type of things Susanna was talking about. Please share with us your view. How are you doing there? This poll is now on your screen. So extensively, how are you, Facebook, are you using Facebook? Perhaps it's only in a limited way. Market distributors, are you thinking about it? Or is the answer at this moment a simple no? Now, I'm going to give you some of the feedback. Audience, thank you for your participation. A very positive 10% are saying yes extensively with Facebook. Well done. That I'm sure that you're getting the results. We look forward to hearing more about that in the future. Bravo to you. Some of you, in fact, it says 8% are using your distributors. That is absolutely a route, as long as you've got something of a grip and control, as Susanna was describing. 15% are thinking about it. Well, I hope that today we've been able to bring you back some information which might encourage you and say to you, yes, take those tentative steps and watch the reward. 70% are saying no, but I thank you for attending today, and I hope that we can encourage you to begin that process. I'm going to close the poll, and then I'm going to hand back to Susanna. Well, here we go. This is poll number 3. That's the poll number 3 closing. There we go. And I hand back briefly to Susanna, as I believe we're going to move into question time.
Well, indeed, John. If there are any questions, I think that Anne, myself, Jared would be very happy to be answering any of the questions.
Absolutely. Well, look, here goes. I can only say to you that there are lots of questions. At the last count, there were well over 25. But what I'm going to do is I'm only going to stick with the main ones. I've had to bring them down with Jared. Jared's been there on the chat box. So we've got a limited time. So we've got a limited number of questions. And guess what? Jared will be coming back to you, by the way. So Jared will be looking at the questions and responses. He'll be researching further information. So please do look out for emails from Jared and even follow-up calls, as he is there to provide you with the helpful answers and information that you may want. Now, quickly, I'm going to jump to Anne. Anne, please. This question actually was asked twice, so it's absolutely the right question to ask you to begin with. How difficult is it for women to do business in the region? Now, Anne, please, there's clearly an audience that wants to know.
It's a very common question, and I will tell you that it is a complete misconception. I've never had any trouble doing business in the Middle East. Women are very much recognized for their business prowess and are actively engaged in these markets.
That is great to hear. I'm sure that's very, very comforting for a lot. And I was looking at the audience attendees earlier. I can see there is a preponderance of female attendees. So, and you are addressing a very female audience, and thank you for that question. I'm going to jump over to Susanna with the next one, which is directly related to, can one website in Arabic serve for the whole Arab Gulf region? Now, there you go. That's kind of addressed, but what's a quick answer to that?
The quick answer is sort of. I mentioned that there are differences in Arabic, one country to the next, but there's also a standard that you could use. And if you're basing your website, let's say in UAE, it really does then work very well in the surrounding countries, especially in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. So that you can hit sort of a good 50 to 70 million people with one website across a couple of different countries. I'd say the trick as well is make sure you're hosting it locally, because that will make sure that you have good up and download speed times. So yes, one website in Arabic hosted locally with standardized Arabic could well serve several different countries, particularly UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and probably into Jordan too.
Susanna, thank you for that. And those were some big numbers. So there you go. Anne, Expo 2020, it is a big subject, big topic, and I know there are a lot of questions. So how does one go about identifying opportunities there? And what's the inside route there, please?
I would advise that anyone who's interested in participating in the procurement for Expo 2020, the site specifically, to go onto their website, because they are operating at a transparency level that I've never seen before in the region. You can go online into their procurement section of their website and actually register your company. You can have visuals on what are the outstanding bids that are going on, who is winning the bids, and if you find your company as being a subset of some factor that has already been awarded, you can contact that company directly, and if they don't respond to you, the Expo 2020 team will actually introduce you to that company who won the bid. So I would highly recommend that you just go online to their website and register.
Thank you, and there you go, and an online solution. That's and Susanna, Claire here has got she works for a tech healthcare company. She's been to Arab Health regularly, is going back again, and her question directly, well then, Susanna, and I guess do get in touch with Anne as well. Will a website really help her be more successful at Arab Health?
I think it's very interesting, actually. A lot of our clients, kick off a new website for a new country and new social media spend in anticipation of an important trade show. And we find typically that if you start a campaign about 6 weeks before, it has a huge impact on your on the success of the trade show for you. We have a lot of statistics on this. The return on investment of a good website with good social media before a trade show is really phenomenal and very very well documented, I think. So we would definitely recommend having a good website, particularly given the investment you make in trade shows. You really want to capitalize on it and optimize it. So a website is the most efficient and fastest way of doing that.
Thank you. And Anne, home base is Tony, one of today's attendees, is Michigan-based. Your home state, Anne. His model of go-to-market is distributor-based, and he's saying, how does he go about deciding which distributor is the best fit?
Well, that is probably the most important question. You have to take time and make sure that they are a good fit in terms of whether they do business like you do, whether they have proof of their financial soundness, if they can demonstrate that they have the channel partners and the customers that your typical products would be good for. Look at their other products. Do they complement your products? So there's a whole list of ways that you can evaluate different distributors here, but basically it's about being a good match on several different levels. And I just wanted to just echo what Susanna said to the last question as well. If you actually take the time to create a website that's in Arabic, that is going to go a long way in terms of showing respect to the Middle East market, and they love that.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for that. And just related to that, Susanna, Jen in Pennsylvania is saying, and it's related to this, so it's all about distributors and that best fit distributor. Should my distributor manage social media in the region? So, it's funny how it comes and goes. It's an on and offline piece with Anne. So, Susanna, what's your view?
We see this frequently, and I noticed in the last poll that quite a few people were using their distributors for social media. Distributors can play a really great role in terms of your social media. They might know the right terms. They will know events. They will know the right things like that. But that's not their job. They're a really good distributor is really good at transport, after sales, getting money in, being paid, all these things. He's not necessarily really good at social media. And we actually have a lot of experience with companies who've come to us and said, well, we were relying on our distributor, and it's fallen flat. The distributor's not doing it. He's not doing it all the time, or he's doing it badly. They're not marketeers. They're not social media, and they're not on web. So you're asking someone who's not really. It's not their job. If their job is to be a fantastic distributor, that's about logistics and tax and knowing the product. It's not necessarily about nurturing your brand and generating leads in that sense. So for me, careful if you're going to have your distributor involved. Make sure that the role is very defined.
Thank you, Susanna. Tony, Jen, I'd suggest please get in touch with Anne and Susanna for further clarification. Anne, I've got a question here which comes back to something you were talking about earlier. And Jim is saying, tell me about agents and distributors. Would you recommend choosing an agent or distributor as opposed to licensing directly in a free zone? Sounds to me as though he's had a little bit of experience there. Anne, please, what's the answer?
Licensing directly, so I work with companies who do both. Licensing directly in a free zone means that you are starting from ground zero in terms of establishing relationships. You have to get involved in the market, you have to join organizations, you have to build trust not only with your first customer, but in the industry in general. So it's going to be a harder uphill climb. In fact, we've had companies who have licensed here in a free zone rather than go with a distributor, and then come back to us after 18 months and asked us to do appointment setting for them because we're able to get those meetings for them that they still cannot make. So it depends on your business model, of course. What's the best way to go to market? You really have to look at it on an individual basis. So if you want to get in touch with me, I'd be happy to discuss it with you. I'm always happy to jump on a conference call, but it's hard to give advice about distributor versus free zone unless I know more about your actual products or services.
And thank you. And that really is the insider and experience case study view, isn't it? So one quick last question as I'm looking at the clock and being respectful of the clock. Susanna, you were talking about Facebook, so here it is. And the question really is, and again, I would say to you, in many ways, this has been asked a number of times in different ways. When is the ideal time? Facebook, when do you start Facebook? When do you know how to kick it off, and when do you begin? I love that question.
Yeah, I would just say just start. Whenever. Obviously, if you've got an event, if you got a trade show or a product launch, a new distributor, something that can galvanize the campaign, that's even better. But what I would say as well is it takes there is a build-up time, and generally speaking, particularly in places like the Arab Gulf states, they're very sophisticated Facebook markets already. You can tell that by the pricing of the ads. So they are used to it. They expect it, and the audience is used to it, and therefore you're going to have some slower uptake on it. So reckon on, say, a good 3 months before you get some real momentum. So if you've got like a product launch in September, don't launch it in August. Try and give yourself 3 months before to really build up momentum and a brand awareness that'll help your in-market partner or help the event go better. So it's not so much, when's the right time to start, but it's start now, but expect it really to gain momentum after only 3 months.
Susanna, thank you for that. And please do know that Jared is sitting there looking at the questions. Jared will be coming back to you in the next days. You will be receiving a copy of this slide deck. So it is now time for us to close down the webinar, but we're going to be bringing you the survey. So please give us another 30 seconds of your time with the brief Doing Business in Dubai and the Arab Gulf survey. Please give us your input feedback. It helps us to provide you with more value in webinars going forward and also do the follow-up. I want to thank everybody today for participating. We hope you enjoyed the webinar. We hope that you found the information useful when that you are ready to start and grow and further your business in Dubai and the Arab Gulf. So on behalf of IBT Online and Channels MEA, we understand the challenges that you face. We are here to provide solutions and to work with you and ensure your success in growing your exports, your sales and business in Dubai and the Arab Gulf. So don't forget Friday, look for your email at your email inbox, and Friday afternoon you will get a copy of the webinar recording and slide deck. It is my pleasure to say thank you, Anne, so much. Thank you, Susanna. What a great job done. Really useful for all of us as attendees and listeners. We do appreciate the knowledge and research that you have shared with us today and the understanding you've given us so that we can be more successful in doing business in Dubai and the Arab Gulf. So on behalf of that, I'm going to go, yes, this is the audience applause, Anne and Susanna. This is for you. We want to thank you very much indeed. I'm going to shut it down now and say have a great day and thank you for joining us and look forward to the next webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.